Okay, welcome to the June 4th meeting of the Ledyard Farmers Market. This is a regular meeting, so anything can happen. Let us do the roll call. Pam Ball, manager, I'm here.
Market manager.
Melody Ferris, secretary.
April Brunel, treasurer.
Helen Granger. And Kat, can you see him? Nope.
Pete Harry, committee member.
Davis, liaison. Oh, Bill, Bill's here. You can hear the echoing starting already.
Oh, poor Bill. He gets picked on. Okay, let's see. Are there any informational items? Looking to see if there's any hands. I don't see any hands. Okay, no informational items. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. So the only minutes that we actually do have to approve are the regular minutes from May. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes from the May 6th meeting? And does anybody have any comments? I have one comment on the minutes. There's a little section about Cardi's Coffee and how we can have him because it says he's a CT resident, but it's because he's a CT business. So that's technically more correct for that part of the minute. Anybody else have anything for the minute? Okay, I'm going to assume radio silence is okay. So I make a motion to accept the minute with the amendment that it read a CT business, not a CT resident, for the comment about Cardi's Coffee for the May 6th meeting.
I'll second that. This is April.
Okay, all in favor? I see hand. Oops, zooming the wrong way. Bill, your hand up? Yep, okay. And Ellen, are you okay? Ellen?
Can't tell if I'm muted or what's going on, but yes, I'm fine.
Okay, so the minutes for the May 6th meeting passed unanimously. You're looking good, come on.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, next on the agenda is the treasurer report.
All right, so nothing new to report except that, we had our first market. We got some more of those bags sold, so we're going to be adding that in there. But nothing much changed since the last time we met.
I guess our money hasn't really gone out yet.
Right. I do have one question, and that's Copycats is asking for a copy of our tax exempt form. I would believe that Town Hall would have that, not us, but I don't know.
I can mail that to you.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
Yep.
I have a question. What happens to the donations that we got from to the pantry or Valentino's?
We're going to collect for one more week, and then any contributions from the public and any contributions that the market people want to put in, I guess maybe the thing to do is for me to write a check to the food pantry, or no, the town can write the check for the food pantry, right, Linda?
That's correct.
So we'll have the town write a check to the food pantry, and I'll get that check and I'll put it in a sympathy card. I mean, that'll go to the food pantry, and then I will fill out the sympathy card and say that we made a donation for in their name to the food pantry. I'm assuming we'll want to put the dollar amount in there.
So Linda, just for clarification, that goes into the town's account for the pantry. Then the pantry can draw on that account.
Um, the check will go to the church. The town will write the check to the church, to the food pantry care of Ledyard Congregational Church.
Okay.
Okay, I don't necessarily understand that, but okay.
Bill, any money that we raise, collect, donations, that money goes into the Ledyard Farmers Market account, and then we pay it out to whoever it's going to, whether it's the Ledyard Food Pantry or we did another donation. So the money ultimately comes to our pockets and then gets handed out to whomever the fundraiser is for, or the money is for.
That's right. That way we have a trail of it. So we have a record of it in our books. The town has a record of it, and then it goes out.
Yeah, I don't mean to disagree, but the town has an account for the pantry. Why don't we just put that money in the town's pantry account and let them draw on that? Why do we have to transfer it to the church? The church, that's just a complication.
No, it's not. Because if it goes to the town, money stays in the social services account. If it goes to the church, it's used directly by the food pantry.
Okay. So that means, so if I wrote a check to the, it's a little off topic, but if I wrote a check to the town for the food pantry, did it go into social services and not the food pantry?
It's supposed to, it depends on how the check is written. If it says Town of Ledyard, and then in the remark, if it goes to the Town of Ledyard, it's supposed to stay in social services. But occasionally, if there's a check written to the town and it's very specific about where the money is to go, like for food for the food pantry, then it goes to the church. And we can then draw, if I, for instance, have to buy 20 heads of lettuce for the food pantry, social services is not going to write a check for lettuce, but the church will, if that makes any sense.
Okay. All right. So we will, when we get all the money together, we'll give it to Nancy and have Nancy write the check for the food pantry, and it'll go to the church.
Correct.
Okay. All right. We got $57 while we're on the topic
Oh, that's
in the
great.
bucket. Yeah. So Bill was great he was standing there holding the bucket, and people were putting money in the bucket.
Oh,
Yep. So, okay. We were still on comments, treasurer report comments of the committee members. Are there any more comments of the committee members? Good to see you, Jamie.
Pete, just talk.
Okay, market manager report. Mine will be kind of threaded in with the discussion about how things went, but I did talk to the Department of Ag this morning, so I have some answers for us when we talk about what we want to change. Just a couple things. We still need the application from Broadbrook. I totally spaced on asking him for it. I'm assuming he didn't give it to anybody.
No, and I talked to him for a bit. I didn't realize we
Okay.
didn't have it, so I just talked to him when I was buying my bacon.
Yeah, okay. So I need to follow up on that. Okay, so I think the rest of it will all come up later. So there is some old business on here about the procedure for doing credit card purchases. And I know it's not been on anybody's mind, but has anybody finished reading that? And, or do we want to postpone that to the next meeting?
I am all for postponing that till the next meeting. I think we've got lots of other things to talk about if it's not imminent.
Yeah, okay. So do we have to make a motion to postpone that, Linda?
To table, maybe?
No, you can just not discuss. No action in the minutes. Who's taking minutes, Melody? Just put no action.
Okay. All right. So we are on, is there any other old business to discuss? I don't think there is. I don't see anybody jumping in. Okay. So we are on to new business, which is to review opening day. So we can kind of do it in chronological order, and we can talk about Melody had an idea about the volunteers. We had a lot of volunteers. We had more volunteers than I was expecting we were going to have, and I actually ended up sending a couple of kids home. So, Melody, do you want to talk about your idea?
Sure. So it looks like we have pretty much, what was it, 7 or 8 volunteers? And that's not including, sorry, hold on. I just want to see the email I sent because I don't remember now.
Oh, I haven't looked at personal email at all today, so I didn't even see it yet.
All right, so we have approximately 8 volunteers that were at the market, not including Pam or April, and not including any of the teenagers. And just obviously there was way too many volunteers. So in talking, we came up with I was thinking about a couple different ideas, and I was talking to Jamie and everybody else about it too. One of the ideas is to have 3 to 4 volunteers each week, and then swap it every other week to switch off and on of volunteers. So not everybody's there every week. The other idea was to split shifts and have the first group being there between 2:30 and 6, and the next group being there between 4 and 7:30. So everybody's working 3.5 hours. So somebody's there for cleanup and somebody's there for setup. You have enough volunteers for both. That was my idea, and that doesn't include Linda because obviously she's not there really yet, and she always isn't necessarily able to stay towards the end. So, but I was thinking if we did it kind of like we did with the, well, like Jamie had said, if we do it kind of like we did with the winter market, where you have sign-ups and kind of do it that way. But obviously we'd need more coverage than we do in winter, but still not as many as we have. That way it'll give some of the volunteers a break, and you know, we can actually enjoy the market a little bit too while we have the opportunity to. And obviously that would only be during this setup, not when we actually start opening up the other things. Then we'd need the other volunteers back, and we'd need as many as we usually have. So anyways, that's just my idea.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great idea. Because I think what cleanup was done in about 20 minutes. It was amazing. So, I mean, I'll be there every market, so I'll let you guys decide if you want to split the shift every week or if you want to split alternate weeks. I mean, I don't know how much longer.
How late was Savage Spatula there? Because I left at 7:20 because I had my bacon and ice cream in the car.
They left about 7:30.
Okay, so that's not too bad. That's a lot better than last summer.
Well, Supreme Hot Dogs was one of the last ones last summer, and I was the last one because.
And I would
you know,
try. I tried to stay with you most of the time, but.
I know, but and Cardi's not there, and Cardi's often kind of late too. So however you guys want to do that, I think it's a great idea to, you know.
So I
Do you
think
have your hand up? Go ahead.
Ellen or Pete. So all right. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you for thinking of such a quick solution and getting it out to everybody. Although, like I said, I was busy and didn't actually see it till just now. I could never ever commit to being there on a 2:30 at 2:30. So I like the idea of the split shift rather than the week on, the week off. Of course, we're still hopefully going to have some vacation coming up by August and September, and we can figure that out then when we know what things look like.
I can't see anything. Anybody want to comment?
Now, this is,
Melody.
So I had two more quick things that I was just thinking of.
Can you get the dogs?
If we decided we wanted to do like every other, if there was somebody that wanted to split shifts with Ellen, we could still, she could split shifts with somebody.
Sure.
Where she could do the half and everybody else could do the every other. So that would still work for her. Maybe even Linda, when Linda's able to come back, if she wants to commit to something like that. Or anybody else that would like to be there for half the market and not leave. And then the other thing I was thinking is, since April and Pam are there for setup every week, they could start packing up while the rest of us that are staying late can pack up the market. That'll make it so it's easier for you guys to be done and not there so late as well. Because really, it's not that much of a cleanup in this situation. So really, you guys can work on getting your stuff cleaned up. So you can still get that split shift where you're not there as long. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I'm happy to help with the setup.
Yep, I am too. I'll always be there early, so I'll be there.
I'm an early girl too. I like being there early, and I have the time to be there early. So
the sounds like the guy. Well, and Bill has to be there early to help with the wash stand.
I prefer late.
That's fine.
But I'll probably be there for the whole thing.
but even if you divide up, I mean, it looks like there's effort in the front, effort in the back, and during the market, it's kind of it kind of runs itself. So I do think some kind of schedule, because you're going to burn people out if you have everybody there for the whole time. So some kind of shift schedule, I think, is good.
All right, so what I can do is everybody has access to the spreadsheet, so I can add a tab.
Jamie has her hand up, sorry.
Oh, she does? I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, I guess not.
mute. You're muted, James.
Am I muted now?
No.
Good now.
Okay, so you guys could hear my dogs and stuff before. Sorry about that. I thought I was on mute. Somebody should have told me. So I was laughing at Bill's comment about people are going to get burnout. So Bill, not being here for the last couple of years, yes, we all have burnout because we've all been there every single market all the time, and it is a lot of work. So I like the idea of putting up a schedule and seeing if it works for some people doing every other day, like Melody said, or some people splitting shifts. Personally, I like every other time. And if I had to do a shift, I'd prefer to do the first shift, not the second shift. So maybe putting up a schedule like Melody suggested and letting us fill it out and see what we can come up with would be the best. Because I feel like everybody's got something different that would work better for them. So if Melody we can come up with something.
Melody? Yeah, I see a thumbs up. Yeah, I can. So everybody has access to the spreadsheet, so I will go ahead and add another tab for the schedule. And
This
you
is
can fill in what. April, go ahead.
Yep. I just want to add that Bill and James will kind of do a swing because they'll be coming after Bill gets done at work when they can at 3:30. So they'll fill in the gaps and help as they can.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was really surprised at how many volunteers we had. It was a lot of Cub. There was a lot of Cub Scouts. It was great. It was really great. I just didn't think we'd have so many helpers. It was a very pleasant surprise. So, okay, that's good. I will definitely do that. Okay, so let's talk about what worked. I think most of the feedback on Facebook has been pretty positive. I don't have a lot of messages in Messenger that are negative, so anybody, wants to say a few things about what they thought was good about the market, that'd be great.
Public Works did a fantastic job accommodating our needs. The circle whole thing, the U shape, works really, really well. I understand there was one person in particular who we're never going to make happy, who didn't like it. But I think it was great that we had somebody right up front to say, oh, please go in that way. And then we had Bill, our great greeter, just saying, hey, stay 6 feet apart and here's our rules. So that did work.
Yep, Melanie?
My comment is just that I think, other than a couple things that we obviously will be discussing, the flow was fantastic. The way that everybody went in and came out. I mean, I know that we bottlenecked in one area for the most part, but it seems like it went more seamless than I thought it was going to. So I was really impressed with how seamless that was, where we didn't have people, we were stopping them going in the wrong ways all the time and trying to get people out of the middle. So I thought that went well.
This is April. I just want to say that the wash stations worked well, and I saw them being used all day. That was really cool.
Anybody?
Jamie.
Jamie, go ahead.
Hi, it's Jamie. Yes, similar to what everybody said, I thought it was easy to navigate. I mean, it was pretty self-explanatory. There was plenty of room. People understood where they were supposed to go, what they were supposed to do. For the most part, people completely understood to stand on the line. So in general, I thought it was absolutely a wonderful market, and it was very exciting to see how many people were lined up before we started. That was really exciting. So we had some bumps, but overall, I mean, I would give it, I thought the market was like a 98%. Like, I thought it was fantastic.
Cool. Anybody else? Melody?
I just wanted to let everybody know, in case you didn't know, in the first 30 to 40 minutes, we had almost 150 people. In the entire market, we had 244. So just to let you know, we had almost more than half in the first 30 to 45 minutes. So just in case you didn't know that.
That's great. That's great information. Okay, Pete?
So I concur with what Jamie said. I thought it was fantastic. I do think Vince Whittle was an all-star, and how he handled the parking with the help of the scouts, but mostly it was Vince. I just thought he handled it perfectly. Parking was not an issue, and as well as the picking up of pre-orders, I thought that went very smoothly as well.
At the end of the market, this is Pam. Vince said, the scouts have some ideas for parking that we're going to implement next week. And it was great. It was all the scouts' ideas. It wasn't even his ideas. He said the scouts have some great things that we're going to work on for next week. I thought that was fantastic. They were such young gentlemen. They really were. It was wonderful. All right. So I think we pulled off something absolutely fantastic. I talked to Joag this morning, and because I wanted to ask her about, the people at the market and stuff like that. And she said, I have to say, you're one of the few markets that's doing a walkthrough market, and we got a lot of kudos for that. She said the farmers really don't like the drive-through market. So she said we really were providing a great service by having a market where people could come and shop. So we got high marks for all of our effort. Said they don't, there's so many of them that don't have pre-ordering. There's so many of them who are worried about, somebody orders 50 heads of lettuce, and then by the time the market rolls around, they only have 40. What do they do about refunds and this and that and the other? And we've taken all those problems away that the farmers have to solve. So we got a lot of good kudos for that. She was very happy that we were actually doing this.
So Pam, I was going to say, if I could just echo what everybody else said, but I do have a question. Is there any consideration to allowing more than one member per family? Because I think we lost a lot of business because of that. In fact, I know we do, because I can name at least 2 people that said they can't come until we change that. Because people,
So that's what we're going to talk.
oh, I'm sorry, because people aren't going to pay a babysitter to come to the farmer's market.
Mhm. And that's what we're going to talk about with what didn't work. But I did want to talk. I did want to talk about the good things before we got into the bad things.
Okay. But lots of good things.
Yeah, we do have lots of good things. And actually, before we get into the bad things, I do have a couple of other things I want to talk about. We have a Cub Scout who's been selling masks to raise money for the food pantry, who wants to come to the market. So I'm thinking he only wants one date. He wants to be there next week. We have the room. If he sells them, then he has to do sales tax and all that stuff. So he should probably do by donation,
Right.
which means he would fill out a non-selling application and it wouldn't cost him anything because he's not keeping any of the money. But his mother was asking about which application to fill out, and even though that's what I think we should do, I want to make sure everybody else is on board with that because he's not keeping any of this money. So.
And I won't sell my masks next week except kids sizes because someone asked for kids sizes, but I won't sell the regular sizes for him, so he can do that.
Okay. I should have even asked you first.
Okay. I don't mind.
But I knew it would be your answer because that's the kind of person you are. And he was so excited. He came up and he asked and he talked to me and he told me everything and he was great.
I think it's awesome.
He has raised $1,350 for the food pantry.
Wow.
He shows up with his little envelope of money. It's just the cutest thing.
Lori?
He sells them normally for $5 a piece, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we could tell his mom just to make a little sign or a bucket that says asking for a minimum of a $5 donation or something. That way it's not him. Like, we're not selling our bags. We are asking for a $15 donation.
Yep. Exactly. That's exactly
And
what
that
I
way
was
he can
thinking.
get them. So, and if anything does not make sense coming out of my mouth, the 100 pill bottles on my table will tell you why.
Aw.
Poor thing. I got a thumbs up from Pete. Thumbs up from April, Ellen, Lori. I think it's pretty unanimous. Yep, Jamie. Bill, you're good? Thumbs up from Bill. Thumbs up from Melody. Awesome. So I will email her back tonight and let her know that we're delighted to have him. I'll put him next to me at spot number 1 so he gets people right off the bat rather than putting him down the end by himself with everybody else. And I can keep an eye on him too. Okay, the other thing, the A-frame from the post office, I put on the side of the post office in case anybody's wondering where it went. And
If I can add to that, I put the A-frame at the church behind the little white trailer that they have on the side. And I put a garbage bag over it. So if anybody needs it, if I'm not doing it for 1 week, in case I get sick or anything, but nope, knock on wood, I'm not going to.
okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay. I need to contact Cardi. I meant to try to catch up with him yesterday. I didn't get a chance to. He's not gotten back to me about whether Natalie is going to do a full booth for him after he can sell hot and cold coffee. So I got to nail him down on that so that we can figure out if we're going to invite a different coffee vendor who can do that. So just I haven't forgotten about that. Okay. Let's talk about what we need to change for the next market. So I called the Department of Agriculture today. I had a nice talk with Jamie, and takeaway message that I got from her, and this is what we talked about, is that when we made up these guidelines and we printed our signs, this was not June, it was March, and things were pretty hairy and the numbers were growing, and we came up with some pretty strict guidelines, which were in keeping with what was going on at other grocery stores and things like that. So, and we saw, I think from yesterday, that it was not fun to enforce, and people didn't really like it. The ones that didn't, the ones that wanted to shop in pairs didn't like it. So I think, and this is not what we should do, we should talk about, I think what we can do is to say 2 people at a time. So this way, couples, single mothers, but I think we have to draw the line at families. We had a lady show up with 5 kids. Nobody had masks on. And I told Jamie that, and she said, I just can't believe somebody would bring her kids out and, expect it to be something that everybody could go to, not have masks, not have protection. And so I think that's one plan. I'm definitely interested in hearing what other people think. I know we made exceptions for people that had handicaps. We had a very elderly lady who had her person with her, and the other issue was that people would come in and they would line up separately, and then as soon as they came inside, they would buddy up. So people would see that people were shopping in pairs when they had been told that they couldn't. So I think that the solution that I would propose is that we allow 2 people at a time. But I'm definitely interested in what everybody else thinks is a good solution as well. Yep, Lori?
You can go first if you want to.
Jamie's still on mute. Jamie, you want to go first?
I thought she said Pete. So I guess
I didn't see Pete.
I didn't see. So Melody had the idea yesterday that I thought was really fantastic. So Melody, can you tell them about your idea about the 65 people? Because I thought that was really a good one.
Okay. So what I did when I saw that there was a little bit of an issue, I was trying to figure it out because I know that obviously we want everybody to stay relatively 6 feet apart. So I walked the market, counted the arrows 6 feet apart, and then allowing for 1 shopper inside shopping. And when I went all the way around, that would have been allowed for 65 people in the market at one time, which would account for 6 feet in between everybody and whatever. So that's an option. I mean, if we thought that 65 was too much, you could go with 50, but 65 even left a little room because really you have enough for 2 shoppers per area instead of 1. So in order to enforce this, what we could do is like what they do at Home Depot, is you have 1 person clocking them in of how many are inside, and then as people leave, you let more people in. So then you're maintaining that 65 people, which maintains the 6 feet rule if they actually followed it.
Okay, so that was the idea that Melody had that I thought was really great. And then you could have 1 volunteer checking in where Bill was. You could have 1 volunteer at the other side. And as 2 or 3 people come out, you yell over, 2. They can let more people in because you would really get good spacing at that point. Because I know that we had some backups too. So anyway, I thought that was a really, really good idea. And then even if you had to say a family of 4 that came in, whether we want that or not, we can decide that. But you would still have so much space in the, the big loop that even having a family of 4 in there, you're not going to get the crowding that you have when you're just kind of letting people in every once in a while. So I thought that was a good solution to solve kind of the people packing up.
Pete, were you going to say something?
So Chet, he was pretty vocal, not in a bad way, but just saying that they are participating in a lot of markets / open air type situations. And he said that we were by far the most restrictive. And he wasn't saying it in a overly critical way. He was just saying that other people are less restrictive, and that really affects him because the no family thing is like a killer for him. And he said if it stays that way with just one person per car or family, he's going to have to reevaluate his participation this summer. And again, he didn't say it ill-spirited or anything. He's about as nice as can be. And he had invited us to check out, in particular, the Stonington Farmers Market. And he said it's just in a parking lot. He says it's a lot looser. He said, but people are smart. People are doing the right thing. And it's just a much less restrictive thing. And just wanted to relay that.
Good. I wasn't aware of that. Do people think? Go ahead.
well, you can let Lori go. She had her hand up first.
Hi, it's Lori. So, to piggyback on Melody and Jamie's idea of letting 50 to 60 people in at the market at a time, I actually think that's a really good idea, because if you limit the people, because I know Pam, you and I had this conversation, if like when we limited it to one person per car, then you have those people who, okay, there's the elderly, they want to come out, they want to go shopping, but they need that person to help. There's the mom who's got 3 kids, but nobody to watch them. And I think if we did it that way, we wouldn't have to try to word our ruling. Does that just make sense? We wouldn't have to try and word our rules or, tell certain people, oh, it's okay to do this, and then other people not. I just think as a whole, it would probably work a whole lot better.
This is April. I agree on that too. And I just wanted to piggyback on the other comment about Chet. As a kids entertainer, I get it. That's why I'm not doing balloons this summer, because I knew kids aren't coming to the market. And even if you do allow a parent and a kid, I'm still not doing balloons, because I don't feel right now it's good to have all those people gathered, because I know it takes me a couple minutes to make a balloon. So although I feel for Chet, he has to understand that this is not a summer for kids. It just isn't. So that's just my comment.
Linda?
To piggyback on something Pete said, and that was that I did this afternoon, I did some quick searching online on other farmers markets, and I was going to actually ask if anybody had time to go to the Stonington market, because they had a lot of pictures, and I could see for them it's almost business as usual. Although they're social distancing, it did not look like they were limiting. They had no go around the circle. It was just you went up to each booth just like normal. So that one would certainly be a good one to visit of all the ones I researched.
Bill? Go ahead, Bill.
As you know, I went to the Stonington Farmers Market a couple weeks prior to ours. It's true. They had none of those restrictions. They didn't have any kind of like path. People lined up in front of the vendors. There wasn't any marks on the road, on the pavement. They just did 6 foot apart. So it's much more free form. But with that said, everybody sort of adhered to the social distancing thing. There was no one per family. And I do think that, when you go to the market, I think, I'm not saying somebody should come with 5 kids or whatever, but I think it's reasonable for a couple or a mother and a daughter, or a dad and the daughter and son come. It's just the way it is. I mean, and I don't think it's a problem. I mean, I just flew from here to Denver, Denver to back. And if you were family members, you were treated differently. You could sit next to each other, but they asked you not to sit next to each other. I know this is a crowding thing, so maybe the 65 per number is a good thing from a crowding standpoint, but from the standpoint of social distancing, if they're family members, doesn't seem to be a big issue, other than crowding, and we can handle crowding with that 65 number of things. I think we had one older couple walk away when we.
They were mad. They were mad.
Yeah, they were mad.
This is April. I just want to add though, just a different perspective. Although I understand the family rule, like if I'm walking outside with my family, that's totally fine because don't have to be 6 feet apart, because we live together. But we also have to think of the safety of the vendors. If you have a family of 5 coming in their small 7-foot area, that vendor is now with 5 people. So you have to think about it from that side too.
This is Pam, and also as a vendor, those kids don't stop touching things. So I don't want somebody with 4 kids in my booth because the parents are very poor at policing their kids. I do have to say that, and I have to clean up a lot of stuff every week from parents who don't police their kids, and that just on top of everything else. So I will also say, as a vendor, that a lot of people tried to wander around inside the vendor space. They were not capable of going around the outside of the market, even though they were told. They'd come into my space and then they'd start wandering around on the middle. And I know April and I had to redirect a lot of people back onto the gravel path because they kept trying to come into our space. So at the end of the market too, we're going to have to put caution tape. We put it at one end, we didn't put it at the other end, but that's another place where people started coming in. And I'll call you in a second, Lori. The one thing we have working against us is that we don't have a place for people to line up on half of the side of the market. So they insisted on putting in that grass, so we don't have room for people on that side of the market to line up like we do on the other side of the market. So go ahead, Lori.
So one of the other things, and this kind of stretches off from the email from Rachel that we're going to talk about, but she had customers around her, and when she was shopping, and they didn't know if it was supposed to be one person at a time at the vendors, and then they apparently asked the vendors, and a lot of the vendors looked at them and said, I don't know, which infuriates me because I know that you've sent out 9 million emails to the vendors on top of talking to the vendors. I mean, first of all, it should just be common sense. Okay, here's a line. We're supposed to be 6 foot social distancing. Yes, it should be one person at a time. But why would the vendors do that?
This is April. Sorry.
We'll talk about my issues later, but we had a lot of vendor issues last night.
Yeah, that's another half of the what didn't work. Jamie?
I think we also need to remember that masks are supposed to be worn when you cannot social distance. So we are trying to social distance and keep the masks on. So I do feel like we're being effective in, I feel like we're doubling up. So you need the mask and you're supposed to social distance when the mask is for if you can't social distance. And that is per the CDC website. If you can't social distance, wear a mask. And then, you're not, for surfaces, we shouldn't be touching, you can't touch a surface that somebody touched and then touched your eyes, nose, or mouth, which we all have gloves on, so you tend not to do that anyway. So I just think that we are being extremely cautious, and we can't be responsible for everybody's actions, right? We have to ask them to be adults about this. And so I just don't have a problem, particularly if we want to limit it, like Melody was saying, around. You know, I mean, kind of like Bill was saying at the Stonington Market. I mean, people are for the most part, people are doing what they're supposed to do. It's probably a very small minority that are not doing what they're supposed to do. That's just
It's always a small minority that's making a problem for everybody else.
Well, and that's how our society functions. The small minority changes the rules for everybody. But I mean, majority of the people, even a majority of the people that couldn't go in together are understanding. But
So Lori, to follow up on your comment about the vendors, I think that part of that was because people walked in separately and buddied up and then came up to the vendors in pairs. So maybe we could have a combination of both. You know, we limit it to 65 people, but no more than 2 people per group.
This is just April. Bill wants to make a comment, but I don't know since if we're on record, is he allowed?
That's a Linda question.
Question. Could you ask again, April?
Sure. Bill is standing behind me, my husband who volunteered, and he just wanted to make a comment, and I didn't know if
Sure.
that's allowed. Okay.
Yeah, he can make a comment.
Okay, so during telling people the rules, I didn't do it to.
But I can't hear you at all, so you're going to get.
Oh, better?
Yeah.
Is this better?
Better.
So during talking to the people and telling them the rules, sometimes I did tell people if you want to go to a vendor and you see someone already at the vendor, please wait outside until they have left, then go in. I did not say that to everyone, but I did say that to some. It's something if you want me to do next time, if I'm going to be doing the front again, I will do it every single time.
And Jamie has her hand up.
Go ahead, Jamie.
what I think would be a good idea is because, kind of like Bill was just saying, we have grass down both sides, right? So what if we took some of our in our ground signs, right? Yard signs, and I can print off on my big printer and laminate that, that says, 1 or 2 people per vendor booth, and kind of have those down. Another one that says, don't forget, please remain 6 feet of social distancing, and kind of have some of those all the way around as reminders to people, because we're not there to police them, just giving them a reminder.
More signs. We could do more signs. We did paint lines this is Pam, we did paint lines on the ground on the tennis court side so that people would line up that way, but they didn't do it. They also weren't very good at the food trucks about lining up. Some of the food truck people put out different things for people to follow. So go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, Pam. And I think a lot of it is because it's kind of exciting to be at the market, right? And so you're not really looking at the ground because it's kind of exciting. And there's a little urgency when you're there. Like, the vendors are selling out, right? So you kind of want to get there. I mean, it's true. I mean, I couldn't get any bread from Camber. I was heartbroken. That's all Jack wanted was jalapeno bread. So I think those signs would kind of be those reminders, 2 in a booth or whatever number you guys want it to be. Keep your social distancing. We could even have something that, yes, we know this is exciting, but please keep your social distance, or, kind of make it fun instead of just rules, rules, rules. So, and I can make some of those up, send them to the group, let me know what you think, and laminate them up, because I'm going to laminate until my laminator dies and stick them on the signs, and they'll be fine.
Okay, Paula? Paula? Can't hear you. Paula? Can't hear you. Okay, Melody? Paula?
I just wanted to piggyback on what Jamie was saying on the sign. It might actually be a better idea in front of everybody's booth to have the sign. Like in the corner of the booth that says, please wait your turn, stay 6 feet apart, instead of on the opposite side. That way they're reminded when they get to the booth that it says that. Or we can even staple that sign, staple a sign like we did on the other ones on the wood in front of it. At eye level,
Yep.
so they're seeing it.
Yeah, we had arrows at eye level and people were going the wrong way around the market.
Yeah, you know what I can do? Pam? On the back side of the signs, I could put wrong way, right? So if they turned around to go the other way, if it said wrong way, at least they would have that there.
That's a good idea. Melody?
I was just saying we can also have, since we do have extra volunteers, we can have maybe a volunteer that does kind of like just check how people are doing and redirect if they need to as they see it, instead of having everybody at the front, having somebody kind of walking through, not maybe on the outside, but maybe the inside and just looking to see if there's any issues, or seeing if vendors have any issues that they need somebody to say, okay, can you please step back? Kind of just being there to help them in the middle.
Okay. Paula? Now she's shaking her head. Is your microphone not working? You can pop in on chat. You can put your comments through on chat if you put your cursor above the. She's on the phone. Oh, she's going to call in. Okay. Great. So when I was talking with Jamie at DOAG this morning, like I said, we did put a pretty strict interpretation on the rules, and that was, I think, appropriate for the time when we were talking about them. So I think I like a combination of 50-ish, 65 people in the market with no more than 2 people per group, and that takes care of the parents with a child. I was just surprised at how small some of those children were. 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. I mean, hearing Jamie's response this morning that I can't believe people would bring their kids out was a pretty interesting response. Okay, Melody?
Sorry. So just to clarify, because I think that even if we do the 2 people per, I would say then you could, if there was a family of 4, they could still go in, but they'd have to stay in groups of 2.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep.
Yeah. You can only shop as 2 people can go up to a booth and that's it. So if you have a family of 4, you can still go, but one has to go with one parent, one has to go with the other parent.
Yeah, because when you go into McQuaid's or something like that, and there's a family of 4, it's hard to get around them. And they don't have very good control over their kids either. So I'm all for the kids running around outside of the shopping area, but I got to tell you, as a vendor, parents do not watch their children well when they're inside your booth. So, Paula, you finally on? Do you have a comment?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. So I checked out Niantic Farmers Market rules just out of curiosity. They recommend 1 shopper, so it's not like strict like ours, but their number 1 is recommend 1 shopper. I also agree with doing the 65. It makes sense. The other thing is, can we have Chet's on the outside of the tent or the barn? Because families were going to the food trucks, no problem. Do you think it would make sense to have Chet's over there with them?
The families shouldn't have been going to the food trucks. That's the problem. That, the rules apply to all the vendors in the market, and there shouldn't have been 4 people in line in one family at the food truck either.
Okay.
Yep, Melody? Yep, Melody?
Okay, sorry, I was muted. This is just another comment that I was thinking of, because I know that we had a little bit of bottlenecking with Yala. So I know this is kind of off topic, but I don't want to forget. if we moved Yala to like one of the end booths, maybe even move Smith down one and put Yala at the end, then the line would be able to at least have that room near the parking lot, so it's not bottlenecking the rest of the market. So anyway, I was just thinking of that.
Yeah, the problem with the Yala line is nobody went into the tennis courts like they could have. So I think there we could have said, oh, if you're in line for Yala, can you form a line this way? That might have been, that would have solved that problem. But that's something maybe I think we could do. That's why everybody that's on that side is on that side, because we expected them to have the longest lines, but the people didn't form the line in the direction that we had hoped. Yep, go ahead, Melody. Then I'll get to
And
Lori.
that would piggyback with, maybe we need somebody that's kind of helping with the vendors and talking to the people, of one of our volunteers that can actually say, oh, just you can go this way, you can go out this way, or you're having a problem with this customer, or when the girl that emailed saying there was a customer that was being rude, we can kind of maybe redirect for the customers that are in there if we see a problem. I mean, I know they're adults, but at least we'd be there as a resource.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Lori, do you want to say something? And then Jamie?
Okay, yeah. Pete's hopping off our meeting right now because we have company.
Okay.
But what I was gonna say is, as to monitoring the traffic and going back to the kids don't listen, they touch everything, that sort of thing. I know I plan on, and because I heard Captain America was such an excellent helper, and Pam, you and I talked about this before, I don't have problem with, I'm pretty good with people. I like people most of the time. So, I mean, if we're counting people coming in and that sort of thing, if we're like, make sure it's 2 shoppers and I see they have kids and just be, recommend, just be aware, that kind of thing up in the front so that we can do that sort of thing. It is very easy for me to lose my train of thought right now. And Pete had told me that is Yala right near Mike Broadbrook?
Yep.
Pretty close. I don't think they're next to each other, but pretty close.
But they were, with the bottlenecking, a lot of people weren't sure, because I know Pete used his yelling abilities and said, a lot of people don't know whether they should go around or go through, like that sort of thing. So people were like all bottlenecked there. And then once Pete was kind of like, hey, it's okay to come around here, whatever, the bottleneck kind of cleared up. So definitely need somebody, because people have no idea, even though you think they should, don't.
I know, we had so many marks on the ground. We went through already like 2 cans of our spray paint, just making marks. Jamie?
Has her hand up.
Yep, I get called.
So Fred could hear us, and he did let me know that as far as not letting families in, on June 20th, amusement parks are actually opening up to families. So, I mean, if an amusement parks are going to be opening up for families, at that point, I definitely think that we shouldn't even need to have the conversation about who can come in and who not can come in.
That's great. Yeah.
And as far as the bottlenecking, yes, I was going to say the same thing. There's a couple of vendors that just tend to get people that need a little bit more time. And I was thinking maybe we need to space them out differently for the traffic flow, because there was some backup in there. So my thought was maybe to move Mike from Broadbrook, because he does get backed up. It takes him a little bit of time, time people figure that out. The other thing that I had wanted to mention was for the pre-orders. Most people were going to their vendor booth to get the pre-orders, not coming up to us, and that seemed to work. So, maybe that is just something that that is how we handle it. The other thing that I wanted to mention was the food truck lines moving into the parking. So I did mention it to Vince to put the cones so people can't park so close to the food trucks, so that the lines have an ability to be a lot longer. And that's everything on my list.
This is Pam. To follow up on your comment about the food trucks, So we parked them in first drove in, got the first spot, second drove in, got the second spot, but I think we're going to rearrange it so the person we think is the most popular is the closest to that little excavator. So their line can actually go along the grass there and it's out of the way of everything. Linda, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention on that subject that, and Pete would know this because he's the one that helped out at one point. When I was in line at one of the food trucks, people leaving were coming, driving through the line to exit because there was no other place to exit. I mean, they had no choice. So we put some cones in between so the cars could drive through there, but that needs to be looked at, I think, because when you drive out of there, if you're in the one row, that's where you exit, which was right in front of the trucks.
Mm-hmm. Melody?
Can we do something like, I mean, I don't know if this is possible, but can we do something with like stakes or to the, somehow get like a caution tape up to like kind of rope off the area where people can line up to get food from the food trucks rather than, you know, cones? I don't know if that would help.
This is Pam. Yeah, we can actually, we borrowed a bunch of cones from the food pantry and we can definitely do that. Lori, didn't Public Works say they were going to put some barriers up for us for the food trucks and they weren't there?
Yeah, so originally that whole spot by the parking area, that was supposed to be roped off, taped off, however you want to say it. And then there were supposed to be no parking signs there, like either the ones we made at the pavilion or whatever. But that was supposed to be, that front area was supposed to be taped off, so it was only food pavilion. That's it. There was not there. It was supposed to be done, but another adventure in the Public Works arena. So,
yeah,
because he had told me that he would get something to just at least have that roped off so people weren't coming up there or parking and.
Yeah, I saw people, and I tried to stop them driving past the porta potty up behind the church and go out by the food pantry, and there were cones up. So,
And the Boy Scouts eventually closed out the gates.
yes, and a lot of people came in on the library side, I think in part because when you come up the road, that road sign, it's great to have the road sign. I think it does kind of make you think you need to go in at the library if you read the arrows wrong. But I don't think you can put it in.
Looked like that. And when you and I, Pam, had talked over the weekend, because I didn't know where I was going on Monday, I think you had even said, like, well, if you go in through the library, you'll see the pavilion right in front of you. So when I saw that Public Works arrow, that's exactly what I thought I was doing.
Well, but that was because you were coming in as a vendor to come to the mock market.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. All of the communication to the people has been come in at the old Ledyard Center School.
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, I'm not sure what we can do about that sign. I am thinking we need to put the market tent out on the street on market day. I really do think we need to do that. Lori?
Honestly, I don't really think we need that huge sign. I think turning it off would probably be better than having it on. It may just cause more confusion having it there, which is not where we had asked them to place it, than not having it. Most people know they're going to be able to find us. But are you planning on asking or talking to Joe about? I don't understand. Were the gates to the Bill Library closed?
We closed them after all the vendors were in.
So then people were just opening them themselves?
No, they were parking at the library and they were walking down the hill.
Oh, we're going to need to get a sign that says, please do not enter this way.
So what?
They're not going to see it. We had 6 exit signs with arrows pointing people out at the little road at the end of the parking area. But I think what I'll do is I'll ask him to take the arrows off the sign.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. If you just take the arrow off, I think the problem's solved.
I don't know what the sign looks like. So
I was just
It
going
has,
to move the sign so that people are making the left into the Ledyard Center School instead of at the light and going into the library.
we asked it, we did not ask him to put the sign where he put it. We asked him to put the sign at Ledyard Center School.
Yeah, so maybe we can just correct it with Public Works because I think they worked really hard to try to support us and it just slipped through the cracks where it was.
No, it didn't slip through
I
the
don't
cracks.
think so.
No, all right.
We have had many interactions with Joe Tillman, and almost everything we ask him to do is a no. So
And
every suggestion we have, everything that we bring up to him and our reasons why, we asked him not to put the grass so that we could have our lines extend out. No, it was more important to put that grass in than anything else. Everything we've run into roadblock him with just about everything that's pretty, Jamie. With about everything that we've asked him.
Okay.
yeah, because when we had the mock market, I was down with the food trucks and I was also with Joe Tillman, and I had asked him, and I specifically told him that the entrance to the market was no longer going to be from the Bill Library, but that it was at Ledyard Center School, and that's where the traffic was going to be entering from. And he also had a map that Pam sent him of the layout. And the next thing I know, Pam's like, Joe put the sign over by the Bill Library. And I'm like, excellent. We've gotten a lot of pushback from them, a lot.
He's been very nice, but just about everything that we've tried to do that we thought would make the market better has been met with a no. So, but I will ask him if he can take the arrows off the sign. I asked him if he could put enter at Ledyard Center School, and he said there wasn't, you only could put so much on the sign. So. Okay. So what else didn't work from a customer perspective? I think aside from us, can't be responsible for how customers act, but we had a lot of people who were wandering around where we didn't want to wander around and driving where we didn't want them to drive. So I think we need to use the cones better.
I did read a lot of comments on Facebook saying that even though the market has a lot of rules and regulations, that people are still happy that we're having it, and they understood, 99% of them, that there's a reason for them. And actually, I had an email from a friend today, and she said to me, she said, she's like, I can tell how much work you guys put into having this and opening it. But the main concern with the letter was she was there, and a woman, and we're not quite sure if this is the same woman or not, that was at the cannoli truck. She was walking to go get in her space in line with the 6 feet, and the woman just started freaking out, and she's going 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet in her face. And, she's like, I don't like confrontation and that sort of thing. And I told her, I said, you should never feel like that, first of all. I said, and second of all, we're always wearing our green shirts. And I said, you can always come to one of us and let us know. So, but for the most part, everybody seems with the rules pretty happy.
Anybody got their hand up that I'm missing? We did turn a few dogs away. People were there with their dogs. Does anybody have any issues with continuing to not have dogs until things change?
Well, we know we're
I mean,
going to
really,
change
the hard,
in weeks, right?
hopefully, I don't know that, we're going to be able to line people up well on the parking lot side of the market because you can't, you put the grass seed in, it's all taped off. So it really inhibits our ability to open up half the market, which is kind of unfair. So unless we completely don't have to social distance, then it won't be so bad.
Yeah.
But if we have to social distance, that whole side of the market is at a disadvantage until all that caution tape is down from Public Works.
Yeah.
You had your hand up? Okay. So I think, go ahead, Ellen.
Oh, at some point we just need to segue to talk about vendors whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I think it would be nice, how do we want to revise our rules for the customers? Are we going to say for our rule number 1 that people can shop in pairs and keep everything else 6 feet, masks, no dogs, be patient?
And a maximum capacity of 65 people.
Yeah, but they're not going to count that. That's
No, but
that's not their rule, that's our rule.
we can keep them in line on the narrow strip of gravel, which worked really well yesterday. I didn't see too many grumpy faces over it.
I think we need to add that there's an allowance of 60 or whatever, however many we decide people. Because if you're just saying shopping in pairs, to me, that doesn't say, okay, my family of 4 can come and then we can split off. We kind of got to make it, yep, go April, go. You just muted yourself, April. April, you muted yourself. Oh, there she is.
There, I'm back. So I was just gonna say, that's what I was gonna say. You can say shop in pairs, but if you have children, they have to be with an adult.
One
You can't have
child,
like
one adult.
2 children by themselves.
So we say maximum of 2 people per family or car. And if a family of 4 shows up, then we just say you have to split up into 2 groups of 2.
Sure.
Jamie?
I'm okay with families. I don't think we should discourage them from coming. But what we could say is we will allow families, but you do have to break up. You do have to split up, and there has to be a parent with a child. Because I just don't. I mean, we're already doubling up. We've already got the social distancing and the mask.
Yeah,
So
I understand that. I do not want to be the market that has a COVID breakout or a COVID case is traced back to our market.
Yeah.
And then we'll definitely shut down.
And even though we have the masks and the 6-foot spacing, you killed the 6-foot spacing if you have a family of 5 going into one vendor space.
No, what I said is let the families come in, but have them break up. So your wording was, I don't remember how you worded it, but I'm saying I don't want to discourage families, but let them know when they come, you've got a family of 4, it's going to be 2 and 2. But I don't want to discourage families is what I'm saying, because not only that, it's probably better because if you've got a dad with a child and a mom with a child, they're probably both going to spend money, right? And with their kids, I mean, they probably would do that.
Yeah. Lori?
Maybe word it that families must shop in pairs of 2 with children having adult supervision. But I don't think we should say limit 2 per car or people or any of that. Not if we're going to be monitoring how many people we're letting into the market anyway.
But we don't want groups of 4 in the market.
But they wouldn't be in groups if it's 2 and 2. Shoppers must shop, shoppers must from the same family must shop in pairs.
Okay, that's okay. Melody?
We like the whole devil's advocate thing. I just wanted to say what we might have to think about what we're going to do when a family of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had a family of 7 show up. 5 kids, 2 adults. I mean, that's ridiculous because I don't even know why they would have brought every single one of their kids, but I mean, and they didn't go shopping at all. I think they left.
We had a lady there with 5 kids. One woman with 5 kids. 1 she was carrying and 4 were walking around.
Okay, and there was a family that had all their kids, and they did let each of their kids walk through, and they sent them through individually.
That's even better. I mean, if they're old enough, this lady had little kids.
Yeah, well, this lady is probably 6 to 12 or 14 years old. And I don't think that there's any rule that we can make that is going to fit every single scenario that we run into. I think we just have to do our best and then deal with it as they come up.
Yeah. So I will, I'll send around some wordings and then we can decide what we want. We can change it on the website. We can change it on Facebook. And then we can put something on our signs, at the market. Melody?
I would say specifically saying only 2 people are allowed to be at any given booth at any given time.
Yep.
Because that's really the biggest thing for the most part is only 2 people at one booth. So because what'll happen is you'll get to 4 and they'll walk together. But if you make it so that no more than 2 people are allowed to be shopping at one booth at a time, then it's very clear that you need to stick, you know what I mean? I think that even if we say only 2 people allowed, I think we need to make it clear only 2 people will be allowed in the booth at any time.
And I can make up some of the signs that go on the ground. I can say that on the sign, 2 people in a booth at a time. So they've got reminders all the way around, and we can do a couple of those too.
All right. So actually what we really want to say is that people can shop in pairs and that there shouldn't be more than 2 people in a booth. We really need to say both because a couple could be in a booth and then, you know, another couple behind them. If we don't say 2 per booth and 2 per unit, then, okay, we're getting there. I think we just have to find the right wording. Lori?
I'll be right back.
Okay. But I think that's the only rule we need to change after all this discussion. I think that's really the big one. Okay. All right. So I think, is that everything we need for?
Yeah, but if anybody has some some verbiage for the signs or whatever, feel free to send that over. Even if you want to have something like catchy, like, yeah, yes, the market is awesome. Please social distance, you know, even some cute ones like that, just to liven it up a little bit. I think that would be great. And Fred has lots of signs here, so I can just tape it over the top of, you know, existing signs. We don't need to buy anything new.
Okay, we do have some blank ones too, still.
So I'll take some of the blank ones because I'd rather do those first.
The blank corrugated. Yep. Okay.
Yard signs. Yep.
Okay. Should we move on to what we want to say about the vendors? Oh, April? You're on mute.
I'm all for moving on to vendors.
Okay.
Is that
Repeat
a puppy
that
I'm
voice, Dexter.
Yeah, it's a puppy across the street.
I'm like, do I have a dog outside?
Oh, I have a dog outside. Yeah, I have 3. They're next door, but they're having a moment.
You mute yourself, Ellen. It's very annoying.
Sure.
Oh, I think we have, do we want to talk about Mr. Applegate? So 2 things. If he comes back, get me. And Pete said that Chet talked to him. If any of the vendors have anything to say about the market, get me. Because they really shouldn't be talking to anybody and having people relay messages. You know, that's not fair to the people. And the message could get misconstrued or diluted. And that's my job. So if they have things, you know, like Chet had to say to Pete, then just Pete can say, you know what, you really ought to talk to Pam about that. Because that's not fair to Pete. Puts the burden on Pete.
They can come to me too.
Okay. Yeah, you too. But
I don't think, just so you know, I don't think it was was a comment that was meant towards, I think it was just a passing by sort of comment, like it just, whatever. But,
Yeah, but it's not fair to Pete.
no, but I understand.
You know, and just like Mr. Applegate, I have sent him lengthy emails about the market, what we did, why we did it. So you can send them to me. Okay, vendors. I know we had some issues with vendors. Who
So
wants
I
to
think
go first?
the dogs have quieted down, so I'll use the time while the dogs are being tended to by my neighbors. So I had 3 big issues with vendors last night, I'm sorry to say, and I did not address them with the vendors. I knew we'd be talking tonight. I forwarded some of you the email of the picture that I received of the gentleman at Yellow's. His mask just wasn't on. I mean, she was a little, it's a colleague of mine, and so she wasn't going to say anything, and then she thought about it, and then she's like, look, I'm just going to say this because, like, you know, like we're lawyers and we just get used to talking for other people out of context. And so she just sent me the picture, and she said it made her really uncomfortable. She loved the eggplant salad she bought. She ate it in her car. She went back to get more, and she didn't buy anything because that's how he was.
Okay, good to know.
Cardi needs to stop talking. I am happy to talk to Cardi for 5 minutes at a clip. But last night I checked in with Savage Spatula at like 6:30 because we had that big lull. And all they wanted to do was go for me to find out if John Fish still had scallops left for sale. I went over there. I stood there for 10 minutes. I could not get a word in edgewise with Cardi.
I know.
And then finally, John turned to me. He's like, oh, did you want something? I was like, well, Savage Spatula wanted to talk to you about using scallops and checking them out and everything. And that's a customer for him. So finally, what happened at 10 to 7 is that he excused himself and went over to Savage Spatula. And then he decided to order dinner since he was there and he liked their menu. And that's part of why Savage Spatula was sort of like late. Like that all could have been avoided if Cardi had just given me a second, like looked up, stopped talking, and been like, "Oh, hey." And so it impacted both of them. It impacted John a little bit, and it impacted I don't know their names, Steve and Amanda over at Savage Spatula, because they didn't want to leave the truck untended. So I said, "Oh, I can take care of it," figuring I'd be back with them in 5 minutes. And instead, it took like almost 15 minutes. The third person, I don't even know their names. The people who were next to Bittersweet, there were 2 women. She specifically came up to me and she said, what can we eat? Can we get something from the food truck? And I said, oh, of course. If you have 2 people, if you want to, one can go wait in line, keep the booth manned, or let us know if you need coverage. Maybe you can go eat in your car or whatever. 10 minutes later, they were both back sitting there eating lobster rolls and French fries at their booth. There was nothing discreet about it. So those are things that I picked up on.
Okay. Good. That's good. I'm going to be sending them an email.
Okay.
And I'll be talking to them next week. So,
and I want them to do great. Like I could have gone and covered for them if they had just given me like, you know, a 5-minute blip of what it is, or if I tell people to be back in 5 minutes, or they could have split up really easily. That was really sort of like, you just asked me if you could eat. And I was like, yeah, of course. And then she did that.
Linda has her hand up.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Linda, go ahead.
My only suggestion for the vendors is I was in the cannoli line and I knew exactly what I wanted, so it wasn't an issue, but their sign was so tiny that if you didn't know what you wanted to order and you were like behind, the woman behind me walked up and got close to me, and I really didn't care at all to see what the menu said, but the woman behind her went ballistic. She shouldn't be up there. She's not 6 feet away from you. You should have said something to her. I mean, it was ridiculous. Some people need to just mind their own business. But at any rate, the problem there was the vendor signs. If people have to walk up to the booth, to the window to see the menu, that's a problem. So I would highly recommend a food truck have a board so people can read their menus.
So I'm happy to make that suggestion to any of the food trucks, or Pam can include it in her emails too with the next batch going out.
It'll be in my email.
Perfect.
April? You're on mute.
The only thing I want to add, and it's not, I wasn't aggravated, but I don't want it to become an every week thing, is that For His Glory arrived like last minute to set up. And so everybody rushed to go help him, which was awesome to set up. I even ran over and carried stuff for him to help him set up before we let people in. But people are already lined up and they could see all this hustle bustle rushing around and craziness. And I don't think that's, number one, professional, and number one, it's rude to other vendors, to all the other vendors who came up early to set up on time, to get all their stuff together. So maybe we should have a cutoff time. You have to be here by such and such a time to set up. Otherwise, you'll be turned away. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm going to think 3:45. Because some vendors can set up in 5 minutes.
What time did he get there, April?
It was like 10 of, not like even less than that. He had 8 minutes to set up.
Wow, that seems so unlike him.
Yeah, and then Bill was yelling, "You got 8 minutes, let's go." Yeah,
it was basically every one of us ran to the car, right? Everybody got something and brought it out for them. Yeah. But totally unlike them, because usually they're on time. So I didn't know if something funny happened or.
I think something must have happened. I don't expect that to happen again from him, but if it does, I mean, I'll put something in the email, but I don't expect that to happen again. Melody?
Yeah, he was really frazzled for being late. So I could tell that it was like very uncomfortable for him. So I don't think it was something that he would normally do, but I think reiterating in general to everyone, because this is even more difficult with a compact area, like that is just going to be a bigger issue if they're late. They're not going to be able to park and walk it in like they've done in the past. So it is a valid point.
Yep. So this is Pam. Smith wanted to leave early, told me he couldn't leave early and he needed to move his car. So he moved his car about 5 feet. So I have to reiterate, put your car in the back of the parking lot. No leaving early.
Why did he want to leave early?
Because all he had left was lettuce. He didn't have much left.
May I ask which one of the fellows it was that wanted to leave early?
I'll give you 3 guesses and the first 2 are wrong. Yeah, so yes, I did notice the issue with the masks. I didn't notice the eating at the booth. So they must move their cars. They do need better signs. I think Yala needs better signs because people have to come up right up to their booth in order to see what those salads are. There was no distancing between them and their products. Go ahead, Melody.
I don't know if it's something that we can suggest, but if we can get yard signs like we do for other things, where they can put their menus on, so we can line them up on the outside, so they can see them as they're walking and they're waiting. They're like lined up on the outside. I mean, and that's asking them to do it, but I think that might help in this atmosphere if it's something that they could do.
I will suggest that. I mean, when you look at all the work that Granny's Pies put into theirs, that was pretty impressive. They had that whole plexiglass thing. Nico was standing on the car, hanging it. And he left the chains and he left everything there so he could put it up again. I told him I was going to move his spot anyway. But that was great. That was absolutely great. So I think most of the vendors got it. I took pictures of the vendors who did a good job. The cupcake people did a great job. Chet's did a great job. Granny's Pies did a great job. So I'm going to include their photos in the email, reminding people to, put in a small table to keep some distance between them and their products. So it's hard for people not to touch. And I talked to Jamie about that this morning, and she said, people touch food at the grocery store, so we can't stop them from touching it at the market. But in their guidelines, it's suggested that people not touch things and that vendors do all the selections for them. I mean, she did reiterate that everything is a guideline. But like I said, I don't want to be the market that somebody gets sick at or something happens at. So what other things do we need to ask the vendors? I think the traffic, I think they were pretty good about loading and unloading and for the most part parking in the back. Did anybody else have any trouble with the vendors of any sort? I don't know how to make Cardi stop talking. I really don't.
You just gotta, Ellen, you're an attorney. You just gotta do the polite, brisk interrupt. Can you excuse me just for 1 second? Because not only is it Cardi, can I tell you something? Cardi is a huge talker, but I'm going to tell you what. Your second problem was John Fish too, because John Fish does not stop talking, and so you had two talkers.
Yeah, it was just a bad combination, and I was just sitting here like, John, I'm trying to make you a sale here, buddy, but I need to jump in here, and I wanted to check in with other people.
You just got to wedge yourself in there, girl.
Yeah, I was trying, but I also, I don't know, it's awkward. And I love Cardi. I'm happy to kill 5 minutes talking to Cardi, but not 15.
Melody, I just want to say, if you ever have that problem again, I am really good at interrupting. I'm actually, it's an art craft. I'm so good at it. And then I'm so good at it that everybody forgets what they were talking about and they'll disperse.
I think we lost Bill. I know Pete excused himself.
Bill left the meeting a while ago. I saw his things.
Oh, I have to sign off. Sorry. Yep, I got it. Okay.
So I'm about.
I think that's pretty.
Is there anything else?
I'm going to say something that nobody's going to like. So setting up at the meeting, setting up at the market was really difficult for me because I had team members saying things like, well, do these rules even apply to us because we're an outdoor market? Or I don't know why we can't sit together or people can't shop together because they let people sit together on the plane. We've been working on these rules for months. These are the rules that we agreed upon. These were the rules that we decided we were going to have at the market. And it was really, really, really hard to have people sitting there second guessing the rules that we all came up with at the last minute at the market. That's what this meeting is for. It wasn't the time to do it at the market. And I really felt discouraged that all of our hard work was not being respected by the team that put it together. That's the first hard thing I have to say. Second hard thing I have to say is that we made these rules, and as Linda said, what good is a rule if you're not going to enforce it? So I think if people are not going to be willing to enforce the rules that we have for the market, I'm not sure why they would be in the tent. Because Rachel's problem was that somebody was shopping with their child, and, you know, it kind of dumped everything on Bill, and I kept running over to help Bill, and I just don't think that was really fair to have all this that we worked for, and then at the last minute, it not be supported by the team. And it's not, these are the rules that we came up with as a team to follow as a team. And the other thing I have to say is a lot of people on the team weren't wearing masks, and a lot of people on the team weren't following some of the rules. And it was really hard for me to see that. Because we can't ask the people that come to the market to follow the rules if we're not going to follow the rules ourselves. And as Linda said, what good is a rule if you're not going to enforce it? I understand we're not the police. I understand we made exceptions for people with disabilities. I understand it was very difficult for us, but I found that to be, it just added to the difficulty of having to tell people that they couldn't do something when I felt like not everybody on the team was behind the things we asked the people to do. And those are the hard things I feel like I really have to say. And I apologize, I was snippy with a couple people last night because I was being pulled in 5 directions at any one given time, and then to hear that kind of stuff was just very trying. Melody.
I just want to say a couple things regarding that because I understand when, like, me and Jamie talked about it the next day. Well, first, I don't know who wasn't wearing a mask, because everyone I saw was wearing masks the whole time. But, I mean, I know me and Jamie talked about it the next day, and we don't specifically remember talking about the one-person rule, but we thought it was DOAG. So, like, we were trying to figure out where it said in the rules so we could let them know. So there was some confusion there, and that could very well be that we didn't read something, we missed something, wasn't paying attention. So we felt bad even saying, like, well, what did we miss? Because we missed that part. And I can say that it is frustrating to be in that situation, but we were also trying to, like, figure out the right response, because everyone was saying it was DOAG rules, and then we were finding out it wasn't DOAG rules. So I think there was some confusion, which was part of the situation. And I do agree with what you're saying, because I know it was frustrating, and we were trying to, like, figure it out during the market, and it should have waited till now, and we should have tried to just push through. But I mean, that's just my comments, but I don't know who wasn't wearing masks. I thought I saw everybody wearing masks.
I don't name names. Everybody had a copy. Everybody on the committee has had a copy of those rules since April.
That's what I said.
Came out
It's possible that I
April.
it's possible I completely missed it 100,000,000%. We even said, like, we were trying to figure out, like, well, how did we miss this when we thought it was DOAG rules. And I think that's where the confusion was. Not that it wasn't a rule, but we thought it was DOAG rules. So I think there was the confusion on that part. So when we were telling the people that came in that it was DOAG rules, and I did tell a few people too, because I felt bad for Bill that he was the only person doing it until he told me he was fine with it. And I was like, okay, good, you do it, because it stressed me out. So, I mean, we were trying to enforce it even though we were uncomfortable with it. But there was just a lot of confusion, and I think it was going to be that way no matter what, until once you get put in that situation. But I apologize if it caused you frustration, and I think, like, for me, for one, was just trying to figure it out, because I didn't really understand where the actual rules were coming from. And like I said, part of that is my responsibility, because I must not have read it and I missed something, and I should have asked the question before we got there.
So we stretched 6 feet between everybody into one shopper per car, because that's what the grocery stores were doing. So does it say that? No, but it says 6 feet per shopper. And so in order to let the most families shop, you have one shopper per car or one shopper per family. And we talked about all that. And that's what was so hard about it. Jamie, you had your hand up?
No, Melody basically said it, because we went through hundreds of emails today trying to find these rules, and we could not find them anywhere. So then we were thinking, because same thing, I thought we were basing it on DOAG too. Again, my fault. I should have reread the DOAG rules. And so that's what happened. Like, when I told one family that they couldn't come through, and I'm citing the DOAG, and then we find out it's not the DOAG, all of a sudden I'm completely uncomfortable, because it was more comfortable being able to say, well, we're following the rules of this other, the state. And then once we couldn't do that, so that's why we were looking for it. Certainly nobody was trying to stress you out. But it was a very uncomfortable situation. And that's why when I found out I was supposed to be policing people, that's why I was like, I'm not really comfortable doing that. But I mean, we are where we are.
I will. Oh, sorry, Pam.
Nope, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when Pam and I were trying to begin an outline of rules with what DOAG was suggestions, one of their suggestions was to limit it as few people as possible, shoppers as possible within a family. And it's been hard to try and keep up with all the loosening of different rules and regulations, and trying to see what we were supposed to do with state, and what we were supposed to do with legislate, and what we were supposed to do with DOAG. And then, okay, we made up these, but now are we going to have to change it again because of this? So part of the thing is that even though we knew they were, you know, it's not an exact rule of one shopper per family or that kind of thing. We were just trying at that point to make it the safest environment we could, without having to change the rules again, because, you know, we had already posted the rules on Facebook and we had already posted the rules in, on our website. And then it was just going to be change, more change. And I know that at one point this past week when we were still doing the mock setup, I had brought it up to Pam saying, you know, I was like, maybe we don't change it now, but we're going to have to definitely see what happens after the first market or two. So it was just kind of it was just hard trying to figure out where we should fall into, with whose rules we should fall into with, because there was no definitive rule.
That's the problem with guidance. You know, they say, these are the things we want you to do, but you don't have to do them. And then they say, you know, well, you can't make somebody wear a mask, but you don't have to let them in the market. So it would have been easier for us if they had just given us rules, but they didn't. They gave us guidance, and from that, we made our own rules that we came up with as a team. April.
Okay, so to give you a background, I have 5 years in pharmaceutical science quality assurance. I was a QA auditor for Pfizer. And I had to go by all of the rules and regulations, CFR 311, I can even quote them right now in my head. When they give you a guideline, even though it's a guideline, as an auditor, those are rules. So I always side on the side of caution. So I agree with you guys with how strict you were. And I know how hard it is with line management, as you know, cutting my line is always a nightmare. And I always have angry parents and cutting my line and having to stick to rules. But as a quality assurance person, I have no problem with cutting my line, with going guidelines as rules, because that's how they're written. And even though they're guidelines, you still have to treat them as rules, because if you are going to be inspected, that's what you're going to be inspected by.
This is Pam. I think we're going to get inspected this week, so I'm glad we were not inspected yesterday. So my apologies if I snapped at people yesterday. Those are my reasons.
Melody and Linda have their hands up.
Go ahead, Melody.
Okay, just two things. My husband's listening and he agreed with you, April. He says, I agree. So I'm just letting you know. And just my comment, I just wanted to let, like, I realized that there was a little bit of frustration and it was tense for everybody, like when we were trying to figure it out, but it really stayed within the committee. It never went out towards the people that were shopping. They did not see that. We were a united front when it came to the people shopping. It was just us trying to figure it out behind the line. So I just want you, I don't know if you knew that because you were on one side and we were talking over on another side. So it really had nothing to do with like how we were handling as they were walking in. It just had us, we were trying to figure out what to tell them. So I just want you to know that we weren't like saying to the customers, oh, we shouldn't be doing this.
I did not expect that.
Okay, because we were a united front. We were confused because we didn't read, because obviously we need to be paying more attention, but we were a united front.
We were a confused united group. Linda.
You made a comment that intrigued me. You said you were glad we weren't, you were glad we were not, the ledge light did not come. What would they have gotten us on? What was wrong? What ledge light rules were violated?
I think that we did not keep good social distancing in the market tent because we had so many people in the market tent that people couldn't be 6 feet apart in the market tent. And since we posted our rules of one person per thing, we had a lot of people walking around in pairs. And I think they might have fussed about, so Yala had one of his favorite things that he likes to put on his booth that's not sanitizable, like an oilcloth, and I asked him to take it down. I said, if Ledge Light comes, I can guarantee they're going to ask you to take it down. So he took it down. And I know April said, I know it's not required that vendors have a separation between products, but some of our vendors didn't have that. Some of the vegetable vendors didn't have that.
Yeah, I'll even add, I have to have better spacing too. So next week I'm bringing extra tables.
So, thank you. So those are the things I think we might have got dinged on. And I think we might have got dinged on the lines at the food trucks too. But I think we figured out all the things we would have got dinged on.
What was wrong with the lines at the food truck? Since that was where I spent most of my time.
I saw lots of groups of people at the food trucks. And if we want 2 people, then there shouldn't have been groups of 4. And maybe that was just my perspective. I don't know.
So then the problem was our rules. I mean, if we make our rules too restrictive, is Ledge Light really going to be there to enforce our rules?
I don't think so. They're mostly a safety thing, but if we post rules and we're not going by the rules, then we shouldn't have those rules posted. But we've been asked to have guidelines, and how else are we going to give people what our guidelines are if they're not posted?
Right, but the Ledge Light's not trying to enforce our own rules. Ledge Light's trying to enforce the sanitation rules.
Right.
So if we say only one person in at a time, they're not enforcing that.
And one other thing.
Go ahead, Ellen.
Oh, sorry, Jamie. I can wait. Okay, I was gonna say about the food trucks, you're allowed to have 5 people at a time in line for outdoor dining. You just are. I mean, that's the state of Connecticut rule for the outdoor restaurants where people are waiting. People who live together can be together up into a group of 5. So Ledge Light can't ding us for the food trucks at all.
Well, we're not a restaurant. So
No.
I don't know if they
Yeah.
I don't know if they would ding us or not.
I would be very surprised if there's a different rule for a food truck than a restaurant, especially when things are opening up on June 20th, even further.
Thank goodness. Melody?
I was just going to say, like, I think all of the things that you said they might ding us on, I don't think they would ding us on. I think the biggest, and I agree with you, and we actually discussed this, is that having the 3 of us in the market tent probably wasn't a good idea. So I think that with us changing the volunteer schedule, I think that's going to resolve that issue, because a lot of us didn't know what to do. We were like, I was counting people and they were trying to help out. And so I think that was a bit of the problem. We didn't know where to go or what to do. So we were just trying to like help each other out and support each other. But so I think going forward, that particular thing is going to be resolved if we try and reschedule all the volunteers.
Yep. Nope, definitely. I mean, I think last year whoever wanted to be in the tent was in the tent and nobody really thought about it. It was no big deal. And this year, if we have to stay 6 feet apart, it becomes a big deal. And like I said, we had so many volunteers, we didn't really know what to do with them all. And that's not our usual problem. So, okay.
I just want to say one other thing. I think everybody did a fantastic job. I think the confusions that we had were confusions that maybe could have been minimized, but it is what it is. We wouldn't have known until the first market. And I think I was expecting more people to be a little bit upset on Facebook and having comments. So I think more people understood than, I think 99% of people understood. And I think it was a really great market. And I think we all did a great job. So I just want to say kudos to everybody.
I agree. I think we did a great job. I just think it took a lot of stress to get there. We put on a fabulous market and it wasn't easy. And something that I like to say is, you can read about swimming all you want, but until you get thrown into the pool, it's not, you have to experience it. You can read about it all you want. And we spent January to June reading about how to swim and run a COVID market. And then we got thrown into it and, we pulled off something great. We really did. I don't want people to think we didn't pull off something great, because we did. We're one of the very few that are not doing a drive-through market. And like I said, Jamie at DOAG was impressed and very thankful we were doing that. Yep. Lori.
Oh, I was just going to say I'm going to take a bow for my performance yesterday at the market because I know I did a super fantastic job being there.
You were great.
It was a really I was the shopping what is the guinea pig. I did a lot of shopping quickly.
Good. Good, good, good. Okay. I think we've covered the agenda. Next meeting is July 2nd. Does anybody have an issue with that? Is anybody going away on July 4th? Lori.
Matthew waving, not me.
Oh, okay. Melody, do we have to change the date of the next meeting, I guess is the question? Or is July 2nd okay for everybody? Because I think last year we changed it because of the holiday.
July 2nd works for Jamie.
I hope that
Second's
at
fine,
our
yeah.
next meeting, so we're good?
I think so.
Okay, so I'll send around some wording for some things for changing rule number 1, because that's really the only one I think we're planning on changing. An email to the vendors, and I'll talk to the vendors next week. Yeah, I don't know if the vendors are overwhelmed or what, but the questions that I had from them in person and through email were astounding, to say the least. Melody.
I just had a quick question. For you and me, would it be easier if I sent you the minutes before I send them to Roxanne so you have access to them immediately?
No, I don't think we need to change that. I just thought I was going crazy.
I didn't know if you needed to follow up on something and you wanted to make sure that it was all there.
No, I thought I was going crazy looking for the link to the minutes, and there wasn't any link to the minutes, and I thought they were somewhere else, and so yeah.
No, I didn't do it. I just didn't do it.
But they were in the agenda, and that's what got me confused.
Linda had her hand up.
I'm
Okay, Linda.
just real quick, Lori, could you do me a favor? You know the post with your sign? That was like the best post ever. I didn't even boost it, and we had almost 6,000 views. Can you get that to me on the weekend? Or is that too early?
No, as long as Pam has everyone where they're going, that's not a problem. Who took the board home this week with the markers?
Melody.
Melody? Jamie. Jamie did. Okay, because that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay,
Are you able?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it this week, but I'm sure Jamie will send a picture to you.
I can
Yes.
Your email, and then I'll do it after that, and it's no problem.
Yep. That was a great one to share. And then I had people comment to me because it just gave them the list and they loved it.
It was really a good post. It was really a good.
Also, a question with that sign. Do you think, because this is a question I had with Pam, do you think with more people like shopping in pairs and that thing, do you think I should have it on both sides of the board so we could put it at no, just one side? Jamie's like, I'm not doing both sides next week.
Now, one side where we had it facing, I mean, the people are going in one direction, so one side.
I just want to double check.
I think we'll be able to have a good news post that, we can have people shop in pairs, and I think that'll be great. We have a good news post. We have a way to make it better for everybody. Melody.
I just also wanted to say that I think the signs, like the ones that we did, we colored, I think they were really helpful. Like for me, walking through and looking at all the signs we had was so much better than like not having anything. Like it was very clear, so I thought that was good. So the more signs, I think the better.
Okay.
Did you end up putting the parking signs?
Didn't use the no parking signs. It really wasn't an issue.
I think you should use them in front of the food trucks. That's where they would be most useful, is that food truck area. No parking, no parking, no parking. even putting them out further from like the line of the grass and I think if you put them out there, people can't park there, and that would solve part of the problem of people parking in and in front of that area. Because there was
Yeah, the
no
scouts.
parking there.
Yeah, the scouts did a good job, really good job with the parking. But I think you're right. We'll get some of those cones and we'll put some no parking and we'll put some exit. We'll maybe make a couple more exit signs and have people point them out that way. So, and the caution tape held up really well. We only had to fix one. So that was good.
All right, do we make an emotion to adjourn this bad boy?
I think so.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 7:27 p.m.
It's Ellen, and I will second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.
All right, girls, I love you, and